Welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management, a weekly conversation with area leaders about how to persevere during uncertain times. Now here's your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times. And today, it's one of those days where you have snow piling up outside. And so there's always challenges to go along with that. But snow also is good for crops, good for everything in our part of the world because it produces the water, the moisture we need to help things grow. And I guess that's appropriate for today's call because our guest today is Amy France. She's from Scott City and she's chair of the National Sorghum Producers Association. Amy, welcome to our program.
Good morning, Gary. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's good to have you here. And I know, how much snow do you have out in your area?
I want to say 4 to 5 inches, still coming down, no wind, which is very odd for Western Kansas, but it's a beautiful snow and we will absolutely take all the moisture.
Yeah, we'll do the same here. We don't have quite that much, but we'll do the same. So, Amy, I want to talk about your background just a little bit because we'll talk about sorghum and all that stuff, but what's your background? You're in a leadership role in National Association, the Sorghum Producers. What's your background?
Well, I believe my background might look a little bit different than other ag leaders, but I did not grow up in agriculture. Both of my parents are retired music educators. Born in Hays, Kansas, then moved to Kansas City. Then middle school, we moved out to Western Kansas, Leota, which is just 30 miles west of Scott City, where I live now, and grew up in a rural area and still didn't know much about agriculture. It wasn't until I married my husband, who's a third generation farmer, that I thought, this is a pretty cool life. We live 30 miles out in the country. And it was fantastic to begin raising our family there and just outside of the city, quote unquote city, because we live, like I said, a very rural community. I worked in the rural lending area. And then it wasn't until my husband said, hey, we need help on the farm. We can't afford it. So you're the new hired guy. So that took an interesting twist. And that's when I really got involved. I thought, if this is all that we're going to do for income, I've got to know. So just began learning and taking advantage of different opportunities. And so really been blessed to be led in this direction by amazing mentors in the ag world.
Well, very good, because you know what, when I was on the farm growing up, Dad said, you're the new hired help. And so I know exactly where you're coming from on that for making that happen. You mentioned mentors. Who are your mentors growing up? Because you've obviously done a lot of different things, but who do you look up to say, hey, I can now do something on the national level like you've done with the Sorghum Association?
Oh man, it starts from very local. So I got involved in Kansas Farm Bureau, the county level, state, and then national, and really had some amazing mentors. Marita Hauser would be one, and she's in Ulysses. Stacy Forshee, which is kind of up in your area. Just these strong leaders that aren't just strong women leaders, but just strong agricultural leaders and fantastic voices, but also kind of linking arms with others to bring them up. And to me, that's what a leader is. And I've been blessed to have them around me.
Well, our show specifically deals with leading in challenging times. And, it seems like we started in COVID in challenging times, and now it just continues to evolve. And if you're in any sort of agribusiness, the challenges that go along with that. They're out there every day, whether it be just the weather or the other economic things that are going along. You had a unique challenge of being in front of Congress last week, where you testified in Washington before the Senate Commerce Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry. That had to be one of those moments in a career that makes you certainly feel challenged.
Oh, absolutely. I was telling a fellow ag leader that I said, we have a pretty cool job, but a very weighty job. Our job is to relay the messages and the stories of our members. And right now it is very challenging. We continue to have increased cost of production, low prices for the commodities we pour our blood, sweat, and tears into. And then, of course, continuing the conversation of we need a strong safety net in our farm bill. So yes, very challenging, very honored to be able to bring that message to the Senate Ag Committee. And our message was loud and clear and very unified. We need a farm bill and we need it now.
So how did you get invited?
I got an invitation from the Senate Ag Committee. I guess my formal invitation would have come from Senator Bozeman, who is the chair of the Ag Committee. But as a whole, the Senate Ag Committee just wanted to get a pulse of how the ag financial situation was, and had two panels. First panel was AFBF and NFU, and then we had producer leaders on that second panel, from rice to cotton to corn to soybeans to wheat. Definitely a good broad look across to get a good feel, and everyone in agriculture is hurting.
Well, when you're sitting in one of those chairs and everybody is looking at you for the answers, did you get any questions that were more challenging than others?
I can't say that I did. You know, we have a very strong relationship with our senators on the Ag Committee, both our Kansas senators and others. We've been having these conversations for 2-3 years now. So they know, they're just trying to get that message to their colleagues. So we're grateful for the friendships and relationships we've been able to build with them. You know, how lucky are we to have both Senator Marshall and Senator Moran on the Ag Committee, both significant advocates for what we do in Kansas as farmers. And so really great to have both of them there that day, and just kind of looking across the room truly as friends. We've been visiting about this for a long time. They know the hurt. They're just saying, hey, help us relay this to our colleagues.
So end of the day, where are we on getting that bill through?
That's an excellent question, Gary. I know
It may be an impossible question at this point, but it seems like things are moving differently in Washington today. Is there with the changes maybe an impetus to let's get this through and get it done?
You know, with a change of administration, there's always a lot of unknowns, some administrations more than others. But I certainly think that they got the message loud and clear. We are thankful for the assistance at the end of the year that came to our farmers, and we're hoping to get confirmation for Brooke Rollins to get things in motion. I think that will help. I mean, I can't put all my eggs in the basket that once she gets in there, it'll get better. But that is the first step to me to get things moving in the right direction.
You know, we live in a part of the world that understands agriculture. We drive by the fields every day. We sometimes see dust. We sometimes see tractors, combines, et cetera. There's a whole group of legislators that never see that. They've never been a part of it. They've never understood really what agriculture is about other than going to the grocery store. Is there a way to help them understand, and did this help some of those understand the process and the importance of having somebody, at least a safety net for everyone?
I certainly hope so. We've been hearing it in the ag world for years. We've got to tell our story. And that's certainly even more important today than ever. Fewer and fewer people, as you mentioned, even realize where their food comes from. But yes, opening our doors, opening the barn doors, as they say, to say, hey, come take a look. We may not change anyone's mind, but we can certainly find some common ground and have the conversations to maybe influence one way or the other to answer the questions that come about because of lack of knowledge, quite honestly. So I continue to hope that these relationships we're building in DC, because it's a very bipartisan job. We've got to talk to both sides of the aisle, address their questions, hear their questions. I think that's the key too, is we can't constantly go up and tell them. We've got to hear and we've got to listen. And I can say that the leaders before me at National Sorghum have done a tremendous job of that and definitely laid the foundation that we're here to listen to your concerns and let us help you understand. Because really, I think that's the most effective way to move forward.
Well, Amy, I'm sure you made a difference being there. I can tell just talking to you that you have that passion, and but more than that, you have the experience to back that up. I want to talk about what's next for the sorghum producers, what you plan for the next year, what's going on there. But we'll take a quick break. Our guest today is Amy France from Scott City. She's the chair of the National Sorghum Producers Association. Back with more after this.
Since 1776, the United States of America continues to stand tall. It's been tested before, many times. Through grit and the ability to move forward, we create better tomorrows. We help our clients live their best lives to and through retirement. We make it easier. Thank you, Kansas. Worth Wealth Management, enhancing lives and strengthening families.
Welcome back to Forward Ever, leading in challenging times with our guest, Amy France from Scott City. Not only is she from Scott City and in a rural area, works on the farm, part of a farm family. She's the national chair of the Sorghum Producers Association. And Amy, it's good to have you on the program. Great first part talking about what's going on in DC, what's taking place. What are the sorghum producers working on next?
Well, we are constantly working. There's a lot of exciting things in sorghum happening right now. Just to touch back, we are constantly at the table when we're moving farm bill conversations and anything else sorghum specific for our sorghum producers and agriculture as a whole. But one thing maybe a bit lighter in conversation is we have Commodity Classic coming up March 2nd through 4th in Denver, which is really crazy for us Western Kansas people that we won't have to, I mean, some will fly, but it's pretty close considering where other Commodity Classics usually are. Is that a place that you attend, Gary?
Yes.
Excellent. Yes, it won't be quite as far this time, but maybe pretty cold. We'll see.
What takes place at the Commodity Classic?
Well, we're excited. We get to host board meetings, and then we also get to show off and celebrate our yield contest winners at our gala. And then we have a booth throughout the period of time that's booth 1303. And that's where we get to have conversations with everyone walking by, and also alongside Sorghum Checkoff. And this year, we are the cash crop giveaway. So to find out more about that, you'll definitely want to stop by our booth. And then Tuesday, I'll actually be on the stage with the other commodity leaders during general session, and excited about that. There's no question we have amazing leaders no matter what commodity group you look at. And as a past chair always said, I'm not just a single commodity grower. I grow corn, wheat, we have Black Angus cattle. So we have a lot to come together and unite on. And so I'm excited to have that conversation with the other commodity leaders. So it should be a great time in Denver.
Well, your farm sounds like our family farm growing up. But one thing about sorghum, Amy, is that people don't go into the store and buy sorghum. You know, they understand corn, they understand wheat goes into bread. Sorghum is kind of one of those things. It's kind of the in between for other things. Explain how you don't give somebody a handful of Milo and expect them to really enjoy it. How do you explain sorghum?
Well, and I'm glad you said Milo. That is the constant back and forth. Is it sorghum or is it Milo? It depends on where you're at. But really, you said they don't buy it at the grocery store. That is changing, Gary, and I'm excited about that. That kind of leads over into our checkoff world. But sorghum, yes, is generally in livestock feed, aquaponics, aquaculture. Ethanol is a huge user of sorghum. But the food sector is definitely growing. It's non-GMO, it's gluten-free. And so we're definitely seeing a rise also in pet food. Sorghum has a lot of health benefits that people aren't aware of, and we're excited to start showcasing some of that, some heart healthy benefits. So in Scott City, we actually do have it on the shelf in our grocery store. New Life Market here was one of the first to jump into that food sector, and they're located here. But people are starting to notice, and we're really excited about having those conversations too. So sorghum is you asked how I would describe it. So yes, very versatile. And then we're excellent in the field because we are resource conserving. We can produce a crop with less water and less inputs than the other crops. So certainly, Gary, sitting on top of the Ogallala Aquifer, water needs, that's something very important to highlight is that we are the water sipping crop, but also having those conversations, excellent in the field, but great on the plate, and continue to see that growing and excited for that.
Well, we started out talking about you a little bit and want to end up talking about your agriculture, your farming operation. What's a typical day like out on your farm? Not so much where we have snow on the ground like today, but what's a typical day? Because sometimes people that didn't grow up on a farm don't understand that, but what's a typical day work for you and your family?
Well, my husband's oldest son works alongside us, so we're grateful to have that fourth generation right there already. But right now, winter is kind of machine work, getting things ready. We also have livestock. So we just had our first two baby calves hit the ground the last couple days, so that's exciting. And a little scary, of course, with the winter fronts often brings in new babies. So with snow on the ground, which isn't typical, we're very cognizant of babies coming and what we need to do to protect them and the mamas, but also making some planting decisions. What are we going to put in the ground? What does our moisture look like? So right now it's a little bit more office work, and I often say my husband drives the tractor, I drive the desk. But livestock certainly is something that both of us have lots of play in and need all hands on deck. So that's kind of a perspective of right now. And just right here, right around the farm, we have our horses and livestock and chickens and kind of the fun American farm look, and something I'm really excited about. It's pretty neat to be able to tell the stories of the generations before me. And I think I have a unique perspective to just be able to sit back and listen to their stories and relay those. And oftentimes farmers don't always tell their story. They're pretty humble people by nature. And so I'm excited to be able to brag on them and the things they've done.
Amy, it's a beautiful life, and you tell the story so well. Thanks for what you do. Thanks for stepping up to be a leader. Not everybody, like you say, in many cases, the agriculture or farmers are, they just do their job. They work hard 24/7 whenever it needs to be. When that calf is on the way, you can't be in bed. You have to be out taking care of that. And you tell that story so well. So thanks for joining us on our program today.
Thank you, Gary. Look forward to the next time.
Look forward to it as well. Amy France is our guest today. She is the chair of the National Sorghum Association and also a farmer. Her and her husband farm around Scott City in western Kansas. It's good to have you listening to our program as well. The program is brought to you by Worth Wealth Management, where you can live with confidence. I'm Gary Shorman.
Thanks for joining us for Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management. Join us right here next week for another episode with host Gary Shorman. Until then, remember to move forward ever, backward never.